Have you ever heard that you're impossible to manage? I know I have, right? That could be because I need medication. Maybe it's too much soda. Maybe it's not enough food. Whatever it is, which is really interesting in this book. We're back on the book, E-Myth Revisited, co-written with Ken Goodrich, written by Michael Gerber. Chapter 7 on the topic of management. He writes there first, people are impossible to manage. Whew. Okay, I feel better. Now what? You know, reading this book, I gotta tell you, I really thoroughly enjoy reading this book, and I hope you are as well. Uh, I read this book last year, and I didn't have a good highlighter, usually like a little pencil. And it's amazing things that stuck out to me then are still so important to me now. It's like, how did I not apply this simple stuff? Oh, goodness, I love it. One of the things we're going to talk about here today is one of my favorite places that I don't really go to very often, McDonald's. Okay, so let's get back on track here. So people are impossible to manage. All right, so now what do? He says, rather than managing people, management is really all about managing a process, which is a step-by-step way of doing things, which combined with other process becomes a system. Okay, what? Okay, so use an example. All right, like the process of on-time scheduling or the process of answering the phone. Okay, I can understand that. So I had to write some things down on how I want to answer the phone. I actually had to think about it. What did it sound like when I call other places, years ago, I used to manage a place called CC's Pizza. Big pizza buffet restaurant, like terrible, right? I love pizza. And so they had a way of answering the phone. And then you'd call other restaurants. I remember going to get pizza at a Domino's. And they had like 4 phones on the wall, the old cord all tangled up everywhere. And they had all the phones taken off the wall on the counter, which is like, wow, this is why I couldn't call an order. So that was the opposite of what I wanted to happen for my company. So I kind of think of that process of what I want to do. So the process of answering the telephone. Now, this is interesting. A process is a step-by-step way of doing something over time. Now, the process as a whole makes a system. So not just the process of how we answer a phone. Now we have the system of how we answer the telephone, or the system for on-time scheduling, or the customer greeting system. Do you see this? These processes put together comprise our system. Now this is going to, I tell you, hold on. Hope you got a pen and paper. This gets even better. Instead of the managing people, effective managers manage a system, a series of systems for managing. So processes through which people get things done. So, okay, a lot of managing in this term here, right? So effective managers, basically, they're managing the systems through which things get done, through people. Okay, it's going to get even simpler, right? He already made it simple, and I think I'm overcomplicating it, and I apologize if I'm losing this. So managers and their people together manage the process, which are constructed of the systems, which comprise the operating reality of your business. So the manager is managing that system along with the people who are doing it, right? Like my admin team, how they answer the phone. Use an example, our phone greeting system. So they are doing the system, and the manager is making sure that is getting done. Okay, so they're managing the process, not necessarily managing the people. That's kind of cool. No, it gets even cooler. Okay, so great managers focus on how things get done through people using a highly effective system to do it. What? There's a system for managing the system? Yeah, you bet. Here's my fun example, okay? McDonald's, or now there's a new anime one, and my son will show me WickDonald's? I don't quite understand it, but I'm happy he's sharing some things with me, right? Which is a whole other system, how we communicate with our family. So why is it, some people always ask, why is it that McDonald's can hire 16-year-olds who can, if you look today, this is not a whole topic, don't make comments about it, but they can't seem to stay off their phone, but they can seem to go ahead and use the example, make a Big Mac the way you're supposed to make a Big Mac and make Big Mac money for the owner. How in the world is McDonald's taking someone like that, putting them into place, and creating a business? Or excuse me, they're not creating a business, duplicating the business. Well, The answer is simple. They got the systems in place. What does that look like? Well, and it's so duplicated. I've actually never had a different kind of cheeseburger once. They're always the same everywhere I go. I did one time have a great memory of a burger that was freshly made because they just cleaned the grill. Or no, it was, yeah. And it was like, this is really good. Maybe because it's freshly made too, right? But they had the system in place of how to do it every single time, and regardless of the person. Now, this is kind of interesting. If it's regardless of the person, then it is dependent on the process. And the collection of those processes together makes that McDonald's system, which is why, this is really weird. Ready for this? I don't think their goal was to ever make the best burger. Now, actually, if you watch some of the other series on Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits by Greg Crabtree, he talks about that a little bit on how those systems come together. And then also in this book earlier on in the E-Myth, he talks about Ray Kroc's big vision was his little cash machine, a business that was predictable in how it had a process, and predictable how it got customers, and predictable results. And he sold that system. So it wasn't how to make the best cheeseburger, but how to make it over and over again. And that was through the process through which they make big results. I know, I'm digressing. Let's get back on here. So, oh, good note. This is something different for myself. McDonald's, I don't know, and I'm not being mean to anybody who works there. It just seems like whenever I'm there, it's not dependent on superstars, but super systems. Okay, now that's not in the book. That was one of my side notes. The superstar versus super system. Golly, when I first started our company, it'll be almost 8 years, or well, 7.5 years. It was dependent on a superstar. That was me, right? I was creating everything. And then I had some really great hires. And one of those is actually still with me today. And those are great superstars. And why was that? Because it just seemed like it understand what we're trying to do, and they helped fill in the things that I wasn't communicating, and they got wonderful results, okay? And then it just seemed like whenever that person was working with me, we were going to have a great day. And I had different employees, and it just seemed like, holy cow, I got to drag them through this, And so sometimes a superstar can make things a little easier for us. But this is what's interesting is McDonald's isn't depending on if someone's having a good day or if it's a superstar in that position. They're just depending on that the systems they designed are going to be followed to get the results. So it's a super system over the superstar. I'm going to explain more about that. Okay. So, all right. So now what do I do? If I want to create a system, start with what is the result we intend to produce. I was actually having a talk with this about a pastor of when they're starting another church plant, and we're going to do things differently. But what is that result we're trying to produce here? I don't know if we're doing it good. That was always a good question. That's another thing on scorecards in the last video. So start with the result I intend to produce. Okay, so if it's an out of this world service in a sparkling clean restaurant, that's actually one of the missions of CC's Pizza. The question as we're doing this is, are we producing that result every single time? Yeah, or why not? This is where it takes a little bit being honest. This is also a good topic to bring up with your managers, or sometimes this feedback comes to mind through a review from a customer. What do they feel of that process? What do they feel when the person showed up? What do they feel about the person on the phone? Did the intended result of, let's say, truck washing, not a homeowner, and house washing for a homeowner, did they get the result that they wanted when they called us? Or based on what other reviews had said, or based on what we've been known for. Did they get that kind of result? And if they did, great. Now, if we're producing that same result every single time, how can we produce better results? There's all kinds of great things. We had a fun one, and you can use this example as well. A lot of our homeowners have pets, okay? And we always ask, hey, if you have any pets, make sure please they're inside while we're washing the home. Simple enough. And the cool thing was we found out that pets love treats too. Oh yeah, mind blowing, right? That's a new discovery. So what we started doing is we kept a box of little milk bones with our technicians in our trucks. Now, it's a system that I realized after all these boxes of milk bones are empty on my shelves that we're not doing it right now. I'm like, okay, who's that managing that system? Oh yeah, this guy. So we found out by those little milk bones, people loved it. Now, we did have some homeowners say, oh, we don't do milk bones, we only do purely organic and all these things. I'm like, wowzers. I don't even know if milk bones are organic or not. But the point was, we found a way to offer better service. And in that process, it came from the person over the phone, at that time was Casey, which is my sister. Love her, by the way. She did a great job with us. She started asking, hey, if you have any pets, can you make sure they're inside? And people would say, oh, I have a pet, or oh, I do not. And she would just let them talk about their pets. That was part of our process, getting to know that customer well. And then we knew what kind of pet they had. And I don't know if it's about me, but it seems like if you want to share what kind of pet you have, you also want to share the name of your pet. So then we documented that and put that in the notes for our service manager, which we call the person, a salesperson, essentially goes out and does the estimate, would say, go to talk to the house. Hello, Mr. Homeowner. Oh, is this little Cujo? Or it's probably not the name of the dog. But, and then he'd have a milk bone with him. And oh my goodness, that homeowner just came alive. Like, this person, this company really cares about us. That was one of our processes we put into a system. And then when our technicians came to clean the home, guess what they had? A milk bone. And it's also a reminder, hey, let's keep little Cujo inside the house. We're all clean. When it's all nice and dry, it's safe to send them outside. That way their little paws don't track through all that kind of mud and track it inside. So that was the processes that went into a system to produce a certain result. So this is the same way here. So if we're producing a result every single time, and how can we make or produce that better result? Still on myself. I haven't had breakfast yet. And this is an interesting point here. If we don't like the consistent result, we need to change the system. Oh, if I don't like the result I'm getting every single time, I change it. Or, if you've already heard this before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. One of the jokes is at the trade show, we gave away these, auctioned off a Chiefs helmet, auctioned off a raffle. One of the joke was to see how many times they can run into a wall before it cracks, like it did in the Chiefs game where Holmes' helmet cracked because of the weather, because it was so cold out and he got hit. Like, let's just try to duplicate that result over and over again. No one ever took me up on it. I imagine the thing of keep running into a wall and you're going to get the same result over and over again. Moving on. How we manage is more important than who manages, which is the next point of the book here. How we manage is more important than who manages. Now, we're starting out, we're probably not going to have a multiple managers, just yourself. Or what if you have an office manager who uses this book a lot in the reference? But really, when you have an expectation to communicate it to your technicians, they're kind of managing that process as well. So think of that. So now we're thinking if, like that example I had earlier, if John was working, we're going to have a great day. And if it was some other technician that was with me, it may or may not happen. Why? Because he brought his A game as a superstar, which we're going to talk more about that, but it was more dependent on that person than on the process. So as we develop and grow in our company, we have different managers. If I'm dependent on a certain manager to come to the shop or come to work, then I am more dependent on what they are doing versus on the system. All right, did you hear that? So now I become more dependent on what they're doing, their own style of way versus the system. So now it is evident that my system needs repair or needs followed. So how we manage can be taught, but who manages can't be. Okay? How we manage can be taught. So if I have a system that's duplicatable, then the nice thing is, if that manager ever was to leave our company, then I can just say, here is the checklist, basically, and here is our system of how we manage these processes and systems, and we're going to get a much more consistent result. But if we were relying on the superstar, then if that superstar, if and when they leave to chase their own dreams or whatever it is, or worse yet, they go start their own company, whole nother video there, then we are almost like we could be crippled when that person leaves because they were doing everything right. Why? Because they didn't have that system documented in place that I can transfer to somebody else. So then we're relying on the superstar over the system, which is exactly the opposite of what McDonald's does. And I don't know about you, but I would love to have Big Mac money. I like to also love a Big Mac. Okay, now this is another point I put in here. This is also same. This is not in the book, but this is what I kind of got out of it. This is one of my big O's I marked for observation. This is the same for people in key roles. Okay, so if we have a person in a key role who's doing a really good job, if we don't create the process into systems that produce the great results that they're getting, we can be held hostage by that person. That's a whole other topic right there, though. But when you encounter someone who's really good at their position and getting phenomenal results, and you don't really know how they're doing it, or they're just doing it because they know how to do it, or they've already had great training, or just sometimes people just really are a superstar and really get it, and they're getting those results. But if we don't document that process, there can become a time when they're just saying, "Hey, I think I want to be paid more. Hey, I want to get paid a lot more," or "Hey, I think it's time to go." What do we do then? Well, in the process of pay, we'll cover that more in detail later. I could pay you more if it would be possible. If it's actually a good way to start a system too. I could produce these great results if we did these things. So anybody would come in valuing a salary. I'll cover more of that detail later. But when someone wants to say, I think it's time for me to go start my own company. Okay. That could be real tough to compete with at a single level. Your mind's kind of working through it because they were a superstar, really good at what they're doing. But here's something else. In your business, if that document wasn't documented into a series of processes that created a system, it's going to be hard to train and replace that person. But on the good side, a little highlight here, if that person does go start their own company and they don't know how to document a system, they're only going to get so far. Hey, I don't know about you. I want to have a company that's bigger than just me doing the things. I can produce a good income just myself, highly profitable just myself. But I also didn't have freedom of my schedule. Okay, I have freedom of working for myself, but not necessarily freedom of my schedule. So that's kind of thing I want. I want a higher income and I want freedom. That comes in having a business. And the way to build a business is document your serious processes into a system. That's a huge part. We're wrapping up here. Okay. Now, what then is a management system? I love this, okay? This is on page 63. That was one of my notes. The method which every manager innovates, orchestrates, I added in documents, and monitors the systems through which my company produces the results I expect. That's our management system. What? So again, the method for which every manager innovates, orchestrates, documents, and monitors the system through which my company produces results I expect. This is kind of interesting here. So this is more of a manager, something who's just going to, this type of system is a, what's a good word to understand here? If you're the kind of person who loves to try things different over and over and over again, you're going to become a nightmare to your own company. If you have the result in your mind, which you want to accomplish, that's what we need to be able to accomplish every single time. If you're the kind of person who says, I can do this a million different ways and get the kind of result I'm looking for, that is actually very hard to train, very hard to duplicate. And when you have great employees who do the same thing just like you, you're like, why aren't we getting the same kind of results we get? I tried a whole different way. I tried a whole different soap. I this time didn't even want to scrub. I just wanted to kind of rinse and see how it looked. Holy cow. And all of a sudden you have a nightmare moment because you're not getting the same results and you're worried about your customers leaving because what they hired you to do, you're no longer producing because you're trying something new. A little bit of tangent there. Something we're kind of going through right now with one of our great technicians. He's a little bit too entrepreneurial, trying too many things at different times. So what we need to do is make sure he's following that system. So what's the manager's job? He says, well, the manager's job is to invent the systems, okay, that the owner, hey buddy, that's you or me, or the visionary, that the owner's vision is consistently produced and then manage those systems. Oh, so a manager, yes, is going to actually think a little bit differently than you and I sometimes. What they are doing is they are listening to you, listening to me, understanding the goals we're trying to create. This is what I want it to look like. And then they go, how can we produce that result? Like those questions we asked earlier, then how can we produce those consistently? That creates a process of how we do things around here. Then those processes together makes a system that they can be managed, and then they kind of monitor that. And all of a sudden, you've got a pattern how to make a Big Mac to make that Big Mac money. This is what I love. Okay, here's an example I put on here. Let's go back to truck washing, something that we do. Our vision for truck washing was pretty darn simple: a squeaky clean product every single time. All right, how do I get that process? Well, I'd use a really good soap, and then we brush it, and then we rinse it. Okay, that's simple enough. But I found out we weren't getting some of the exact results that I produced every single time. And then we also weren't getting the speed in which we accomplished that, and so it wasn't as profitable as I did that job at. To see how these things kind of get offline when our systems aren't in place. So this is another thing with Casey here. If she ever watches this, I think she's going to really know her brother cared about her. So through the process, we decided we'll just take before and after pictures. That's nothing new. People do it all the time, right? So we did that for us. Hey, if I can't be out there on the crew wash the truck, take a before and after to make sure I can see for my own quality that things are going well. And now we found out that the technicians' phones, how are we taking these pictures? Okay, they take a picture on the phone, and they emailed it or texted it, and they're like, hey, my phone's getting kind of full here, or the pictures didn't come through in time before they left the site. Process started out good. What's the process to get that same result every single time? Casey came across this product. We've heard about it. Other people have said it. Company Cam. They're not endorsing me to say this. It's just something that we found that works for us. That we can take these pictures through an app that's no longer stored on our phone. I see them instantly. So when I'm logged into it, when my technician goes to a site, they're taking the before photos because it's part of the process, and then I'm seeing them instantly. All right, so I can help diagnose or something on there differently, or like, ooh, those power trucks have been going through a lot of dirt and mud, and that's going to take a lot longer to clean. Now I can adjust my expectations. But here's even cooler. When I started seeing these pictures that are different, some of the things like mud flaps weren't getting cleaned right or under the wheel wells, we can fix that better. And then guess what? We send those before and after pictures to our customer, and they love it. Because sometimes the person who's getting the invoice isn't necessarily the person seeing these trucks. And so when they see the before and afters as well, they're being sold on the quality of product that we're producing. And if someone's complaining, then go, I'm seeing great results here. Maybe something's being missed, or they're just going to gloss over like, I can see the results. I think we just have someone's complaining. Isn't that cool how that the end goal was a happy customer with a clean quality product every time? They see that through our processes, and we see that through our system. So that's what I love about it. So here's the ending, wrapping up here. Our job as the entrepreneur, the visionary, is to convey to our managers our vision of the business, of what it looks like when it's finally done, our dream, our vision, our purpose, and our mission. I love that. That's what Michael Gerber put in there. So our job is to, sounds fun. Our job is to dream. What does it look like? What does the end goal look like? What is my company doing? We talked about it in the previous chapters. You didn't see that? Go back and look at it. What is that dream? Which is why my final note on here is, this is why it's so important to dream. But if we just dream without documenting it or writing it down, it's just still a dream. So dream, plan, and then communicate. Also, side note, same thing. It's real important to do with your family or your marriage. What are our dreams together? Let's write this down. I have a goal I want to communicate. I have a goal. And then let's read it. Get the feeling of what it looks like. To visualize and see our goals on paper. And then we communicate those expectations together. And I tell you, when people see those kind of things, now they have something they can kind of huddle around and get in that same dream with you. So, hey, I hope it's meant something to you today. Let me know what you see in those comments. I'm looking forward to the next chapter as well, when Kid Goodrich puts on his interpretation of this one as well, The Skilled Trade of Management, on Chapter 8 of The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. See you next time.